Yeah, I'm very glad that I can be here at the conference and tell a little bit about us, but also what we see in the ecosystem. First, I would like to get back a little bit to where I come from. I got into Bitcoin, I think 2.5 years ago. I read about Bitcoin, got passionate about it, and was at that time working at a marketing agency which was doing marketing for a bunch of e-commerce companies. And I thought there was some synergy there between Bitcoin and e-commerce, and because it was global and it was potentially cheaper to buy with. So I decided to start my own company, but I was searching for a good that I could actually send internationally, which was quite a challenge though, because I was first thinking about, well, Bitcoin, it's only technical people, so probably the only thing they like is mining gear and electronics. So, but the problem with electronics is that every electronics has a different manual, every country has different plugs. So I decided on shipping gold and silver. Was totally not into gold and silver, but I did so. And once I released the web shop only accepting Bitcoin, the first order that came in was from Sweden, and I was of course quite excited because I wasn't expecting an order from Sweden. I wasn't expecting any order actually. And from that point on, actually it started to grow, and on that same day there came an order in from Belgium and then Germany, and I was quite surprised because I was actually only doing it in Dutch. The website was entirely in Dutch, it was not even translated in English, but apparently there was a need for it. So at that moment it grew. I ran the webshop for 1 year, and eventually people from Singapore came to me and said, well, I want to buy that coin with a horse on it for my wife for Christmas. And he said, can you ship it to me? And I was totally surprised because Singapore, I wasn't thinking of Singapore when I set up the web shop. And unfortunately, I couldn't do it because UPS was not offering the possibility to actually ship to Singapore. They do it, but I couldn't insure it. So. But that made my head spin around, and I thought, well, this innovation, at least for e-commerce, is already so mind-blowing. So at that point I met Tony. Tony was one of the founders of BitPay, and I was actually using their software, and he said, well, hey, we're going to start a shop in Amsterdam. Do you want to join? And I said, well, this is a great opportunity. I do have a successful web shop, but I gave it to a partner of mine, and I started working at BitPay. So a little bit background on BitPay. BitPay started by the two founders, Steven and Tony, and they were also passionate about the protocol and what they found fascinating. They were passionate about the fact that you could actually transfer value to each other without a middleman, but they were a bit frustrated by the fact that they could not actually pay the merchant. So they thought, well, let's build it ourselves. And from that point on, it grew from 2 to 100 merchants to 1,000. They had to upgrade the protocol. Retail merchants came up to them and say, well, hey, this is nice that you can do it online, but can you also maybe make an app to do it on the retail store? So they built, the team that built a POS application, first HTML, and then when Apple finally released or opened up their store for a Bitcoin application, we made one for Apple as well and Android. And that's basically where we are right now. Merchants really liked the fact that you could pay with Bitcoin. And we are now a company of 80 people in total. We have 6 offices throughout the world, and Amsterdam is where I'm based. That is the European headquarters that was also in need. Once the team was growing from 10 to 15, there were some scalability challenges, so to say, and they went on to investors trying to see if they were as excited as they were, and they were. So we raised 30 million for BitPay, and that also opened up the opportunity to actually come to Amsterdam and make Amsterdam the European headquarters, to also make sure that we could better serve the merchants in Europe, also for time zone purposes. Yeah, so this is an example of the Bitcoin POS app that we're running. What we also find really important in BitPay is that we also stimulate we absolutely are a fan of the open source culture. That's also where we are built on top of, right? We're using the Bitcoin protocol, and we are grateful that some smart guy came up with it. And we also want to give back to the community in that case. So we're supporting a lot of open source projects. For example, the Bitcore client, which is a client that makes it for developers easier, or actually make it possible to already use JavaScript libraries and a bunch of others to start developing your own app. Another one is CoPay, which we were excited about. It's more a multi-signature wallet, which is also open source, and which we are trying to see how we can actually prove models like escrow services through that. So you need multiple signatures, which is also could be interesting for merchants in the long run as well. But our core product is still, of course, the BitPay payment processing. We have approximately 50,000 merchants right now. Here are a few that are that we are proud of, that we can work with. One of the ones that we released this week was Xola, and maybe some of you know it, maybe some of you don't. But what is exciting about Xola? Xola is a payment platform for gaming companies, and we are really excited to see how that is gonna evolve, because we think that gaming and, for example, micropayments and in-game payments are definitely a good use case for Bitcoin, and we would really like to see how the clients of Xola that start accepting Bitcoin through them will perform, and that's pretty excited. So that's something we did this week. And yeah, and amongst others, we also have charity companies, quite some exciting ones. Why merchants start accepting Bitcoin is actually what we see, what we get back as feedback is mainly 3 reasons. One of them is also in my example, when I was selling gold, selling globally. Basically, our thought is if you can ship it there, if you can sell there, you can ship there. Sorry, it's the other way around. If you can ship there, you can sell there. So sell globally, you actually start opening up with Bitcoin to the entire world. And they see a lower cost, of course, for the transaction fees. There is no credit card fees, and also a lower risk in terms of chargebacks. There is also an important one for merchants that they can actually save money on. What we also get back from merchants is that what they actually see, for example, one of our merchants is Destinia, and they recently published an infographic with some statistics on what they saw in, or kind of statistics on Bitcoin transactions. And we heard that from more merchants, that they actually see that the people that do spend Bitcoin at them, although it's still a small percentage, because let's be real here, it's still a niche market, but it's growing. They're actually spending more, the average order value is more than a regular customer. And also what they see is that the Bitcoin customer that comes to their website is actually also a new customer, and not an existing one that just wants to pay with Bitcoin. And it also makes sense, I think, because those Bitcoin people that own it really want to spend those Bitcoins, and if they cannot do it at your store, they will try to find another one where they can. So basically that is also a nice initiative, and that's what we're getting back from merchants as well, that they actually see that the amount of Bitcoin owners that pay their website are also new customers. And also in terms of savings, I already mentioned the chargebacks. So the chargebacks, especially for credit cards, maybe in some countries not as big as, for example, in the US, but in the US we get it a lot, like 2 or 3% of the bigger merchants have to calculate that 2 or 3% is fraud because of people actually charging back the money. So that is a saving if you start accepting Bitcoin, because you won't have those chargebacks. And also, since there is no transaction fees, they also save on that. There is actually a double saving point there. Now also, of course, we are focused on the merchants, but also there are also beneficials for the consumers, and I will definitely not forget the fact that there is volatility, and it is still a thing that we all know is kind of a challenge right now in the Bitcoin community. But also for a consumer side, it's a positive thing for them, because there is reduced fraud for them. There is no identity theft of credit cards and getting stolen. Often merchants also promote that if you buy with Bitcoin, there is a discount on the order. For example, a company Air Baltic, which sells sells flights, they actually give the consumer 2% off if they would pay with Bitcoin. And those kind of incentives are, of course, also an incentive for the consumer to actually spend their Bitcoins there. Yeah, and not all consumers have credit cards, so it's not that I want to stimulate like your little children to start paying online. But what I think is interesting, for example, is that parents could actually easily create a wallet for their children and maybe drop some Bitcoins on it, or a percentage, or partial of it, and give them some opportunity to start spending, I don't know, buying goods for World of Warcraft or whatever. And then there's a black slide, so no idea what that is. Oh. Actually, I think we're now going to the statistics. Yeah, go to that. Yeah. So a little bit more about statistics on what we see in Europe and worldwide. Oh. If we look at the transaction volume, we do see a rise. Also in November, there was a spike again. So we're averaging around 50,000 transactions on a monthly basis right now. Of course, the peaks that you see are obviously coming from the Bitcoin price. That is also something that we see. If the Bitcoin price goes up, we see more transactions. If the Bitcoin price goes down, we see less transactions. If it stabilizes, we also see less transactions. The price is still an important indicator. Wait, I think I'm hitting the wrong button. Let's see. So if we look at turnover in Europe, this is actually the payouts that we did to our merchants in euros. So this is only the European merchants. And if you look at the payouts that we did in 2013, that was nearly 8 million that we paid out to the merchant, and that is only the merchants, that it's actually only the percentage euro that we paid out, because we also see that merchants keep a certain percentage. On average, the division is 80% wants to be paid out in euro, and 20% they keep for in Bitcoin. Of course, the really big ones tend also screw up the statistics a bit. I think it's even 70-30, but the big ones keep 100%, and of course that also brings down the average amount of people in statistics-wise, percentage-wise, that actually keep a certain percentage in Bitcoin. So this is only the pie, or the piece of the pie that actually had a percentage paid out in fiat. And if you then look at 2014, we see quite a drastic increase in payouts, and this is only for Europe. So we're about 25 million right now, and the year is not over yet. So looking at the amount of merchants that we sign up, if we're in Europe, we are now approximately signing up 1,000 merchants a week. A month. Let's not to be too positive on it. A month, and globally we do around 2,500 to 3,000. It depends a bit on the month, but we see still an increase in the amount of merchants that sign up. If you look at the percentage of those 3,000 merchants signing up, 40% is US, 30% is Europe, and the rest is throughout the entire world. Also some European statistics. So in the last 3 months we did sign up 3,000 merchants, and on average we have about 15,000 merchants in Europe right now accepting Bitcoin. So that is approximately 30% of the total merchants that we sign up right now. And this is the volume that they process so far. In terms of adoption in countries, the ones that do well are UK. That also has to do with the size of the country, of course. If you really look at adoption, the adoption rate in the Netherlands is the highest. So, meaning per square meter, we get the stores that accept the most Bitcoins. Followed by UK and then Germany in that perspective. And I also tried to look up some statistics for Bulgaria. So I don't have transaction volumes for you guys, but we have 500 merchants accepting Bitcoin. So I'm not sure if there's any of those merchants in the 1-2. So there could have been more, 400 people more here, or 500. No, but this is the people that actually sign up with us. And I think Bulgaria is in our top 20, around between the 15 and the 20 top 20 of countries that starts accepting it. So that's basically what I got on Bulgaria. And yeah, that's actually my presentation. We're really excited about the future. We really try to extend our services and really try to stick with our mission, that is make Bitcoin every merchant's favorite way of paying. And if there is any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Let's give him a round of applause first.